top 5 rogue, excuse me, the top 5 lower in the tier 1 decks for, what is this, August? Yeah, August 2022. Don't make 30% guys, I'm not smash the living crap out of the subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up the 100k ladder here. Now I want to talk about Exo Sister here, because I did not mention it in the last video, and a few people are just absolutely have lost their bananas at the moment for this. Now the thing with Exo Sister is this deck's dominance in the format, in order to have a true triangle format, you need to have Sprite and Tier Elements be some of the better decks. You need to have a lot more graveyard resilient strategies in the thing. Now, as of making this video, I mean, you have Dragon Link, Punk, you know, all of these other decks that you're going to look at in this format, and you're going to go, oh, you know, like, how good is Exo Sister against Rogue? The answer is it's not super strong against other decks of a lower caliber. And it's very interesting because, like, yeah, its best matchups are very reliant on, obviously, you know, the more decks that touch the graveyard, the better off the strategy is going to be 100%. But you still got to look at it from the standpoint of, all right, well, my interactions and things really matter all that much? And the answer is yes, 100%. If you end up playing another deck in the rogue category, you're just going to be caught off guard, and you're going to be like, well, this deck doesn't rely on its graveyard. Like your Plunder Patrol Exo Sister matchup has got to just be one of the most, like, interesting things to see out there, you know? What if you play against, you know, I mean, obviously, like, Eldritch touches the graveyard every other interaction here. You know, Sky Striker running around at the lower tier 2, like, one Mystic Mine in the Exo Sister player is like, oh, you know, obviously, like, a good time trap card can, you know, banish that Mystic Mine, obviously, but you got to be able to get to that. I guess they also have to get to the Mystic Mine, but that's neither here nor there, ladies and gentlemen. At least you have a built-in mine out to some of the craziest interactions in the deck. So my 2 cents here, ladies and gentlemen, I think that the deck is very much the 6th best deck in the room. It's just, I think the other 5 are a little bit further ahead of it. Now, I got to give a shout out here to Sky Striker, still sitting in here like 1.5 at the dinner table. I know so many people watch these videos and like, oh boy, here we go again. Robbie's talking about Sky Striker being 1.5 again. I mean, Mystic Mine. What do you want me to tell you guys? Every time we talk about Sky Striker, everybody usually looks around the dinner table and goes, oh, you know, like, you know, what do we do? You know, it's Mystic Mine. Yeah, I get it. It's annoying at the end of the day. Yeah, sure. But, you know, you got to ask yourself, once again, is it a card that you really want to deal with? At, I guess the whole point here is, I'm just saying words at this point. The whole point of this deck is Mystic Mine, go burr. All right, now, obviously, you don't see a lot of Sky Striker players topping, and I would say that this deck is more niche, more so than, you know, other things out there. But once again, you ever notice that, like, good players, once again, are the things that kind of make these decks a little bit better? Yeah, me, an average Joe, could play Striker, but I mean, like, am I going to be able to make some of the harder judgment calls that I'm going to need to make versus other interactions and other players? The answer is maybe not. You know, maybe I'm not going to be able to make that crucial call that, you know, somebody like Ryan Yu has had, you know, way more experience piloting the current variant, you know, adapting to those, you know, very, very, very niche interactions. But at the end of the day, I still think Mystic Mine is the carry for this deck. You know, we have much more support coming out later on with Mavens here, and even if something does happen to this deck that forces it to take a back seat here for a little while, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's out of the format. You just got to wait for, you know, the OTK machine to make the deck feel just a little bit better here. Now, we also have Sword Soul over here. Now, Sword Soul's expected fall from grace here has to do with just the deck feels fair post-Sprite format. Now, that's not a bad thing, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, being able to, you know, topple through the entire vacuum of 10-Yi combo and still do things is great. Yeah, sure. But you still run into kind of the Nibiru problem. You know, how much Nibiru will see play in the format might determine if this deck moves up or lower on the list. But I think in terms of it being a very, very well good rogue call, I think it's fine. I think you could still play Sword Soul in this era and be fine. But that's not necessarily going to prove true to everybody out here. A few people look at Sword Soul and be like, Robbie, just let the deck go, all right? Like, I don't think it's done. I don't think it's better than everything else, but that means that, like, that's one more tier 1 deck that sits at the dinner table and goes, all right, well, what are you going to do? I mean, truly, if Sword Soul bumps down into the rogue category, that's some massive power creep, ladies and gentlemen. But, you know, even when you get down into, like, tier, like, 2 in the rogue category, you still see these big decks keeping up with some of the biggest things. Like, Marincess was a very underrated thing here. Now, once again, am I saying that Sword Soul is going to become the next Marincess? No, but a deck like this is going to need a little bit more time to adapt, really, to a lot of the other things that are really coming out here in the format for it. So, I know, Exo Sister versus Sword Soul is going to be a very interesting format, too, because all of a sudden you watch a Graveyard Interaction and you're like, Tinny Effect, you're like, no, stop! Bad. Stop touching your graveyard, duelist. Next up here is going to be anything Brave related. Now, how much of the new format actually cares about interactions with Brave? You know, as I'm making this video, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but when they got to this stage in the OCG, the Brave package was pretty much starting to get hit, or very much cleaned up. It's very interesting because we have the package at 100% power now. A lot of players are going to look at this and go, oh, you know, that's very, very interesting. I do agree with you. I think that the overall potential here for this this package is still very good. I think it's going to carry a lot of decks forward here, you know, like obviously Plunder Patrol and a lot more things like that, depending on how things can shift up on a ban list. But as of it standing right now, this package is one of the things that makes the TCG very unique with the establishment of our format around it. All right, you see a lot of interesting things that this deck basically does. Like, I would say, like in previous videos, we saw that the format was pretty much glued together by the Brave package, which I know doesn't make a lot of people happy to hear that. But the Brave package, you know, especially in something like, you know, the Rose Dragon combo synchro deck out here, synchro box, you know, this deck I think has one of the coolest ceilings in the modern era, but it has issues, you know, keeping up with the current development of the format at certain points, you know, especially, you know, if you've got Dragon League roaring around at like other tables and, you know, doing its thing here, that means that, you know, the Brave package kind of gets struggling. It's not to say that Dragon Link isn't playing the Brave package, because they very much are, but I do think overall, in terms of what you want to see right now for this, it's definitely needs a little bit more, I hope, stability, so it doesn't end up phasing out here in the future. And last but not least is Despia. Oh my gosh, Despia's straight fall from glory here has been nothing short of absolutely amazing to watch. You know, Despia shaped up to be one of the strongest decks, you know, pre-Verte Anaconda going. And then once you started to see Verte move, and, you know, remove itself from the format, last format, Despia struggled so hard to keep up, and now it continues to move further and further down. I mean, obviously, you know, dimensional barrier does exist, and, you know, calling fusion, especially against something like Tier Elements, really can put you in a bloody lead. That's what, now 3 decks in the format? Sword Soul, Despia, and, I mean, I guess you can also call what Exceed versus Sprite, and then you cut them off now. But this deck, not really having much of an extra deck resource other than fusions, really struggles out here, man, to kind of capitalize and do some of the things that it really wants to do. Yeah, it's actually really sucky to be a Despia player right now, because you've moved so far down the list. I think you're barely holding on from almost falling into, you know, 1.75. But that's just kind of my opinion right now on where we're expecting things to go. So what do you guys honestly think? Yes, I know Circular exists as a card before somebody's like, where's the Code Talker stuff, Robbie? It's there. I just don't know where to put it just yet. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.